everybody else that say that they her best friend, they is not her best friend. They are there for an opportunity. They are using her for an opportunity. And the moment that they can get their opportunity, they're no longer going to be around her because they have their opportunity.
This story didn't start loudly, but it didn't stay quiet for long. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a simple disagreement between people who knew each other well. The kind of tension that shows up in everyday relationships, uncomfortable but not unusual. On the surface, everything looked manageable, but underneath something else was building. Slowly, quietly, and almost invisibly, cracks began to form. There were small signs at first, awkward conversations, pauses that lasted a little too long, questions that never got answered. The kind of details people often ignore until it's too late. Over time, those little moments created an atmosphere where trust began to weaken. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Then everything changed. One statement, one unexpected detail. That was all it took. Suddenly, what once seemed like a private issue turned into something much bigger. Something layered with suspicion, emotion, and hidden truths. People began talking. Quiet guesses turned into louder opinions. And without even realizing it, individuals started choosing sides. What began as something personal quickly became impossible to ignore. This became the kind of story where every word matters, where every move carries weight. And the wildest part? This was only the beginning. Just when it seemed like the situation between Claressa Shields and Papoose had already reached its peak, another twist appeared. And this one changed everything. Out of nowhere, Claressa's own cousin stepped forward. And what they had to say wasn't small talk. It wasn't light drama. These were serious claims, the kind that make people stop, listen, and reassess everything they thought they understood. According to people close to the situation, this wasn't just rumor. It wasn't gossip floating around for entertainment. It was something much heavier. Something that demanded attention. And then it got even more complicated. Whispers began circulating that Papoose had allegedly been moving in ways no one expected behind closed doors, possibly taking advantage of Claressa while everything appeared calm on the outside. That claim alone shifted the entire narrative. The cousins' revelations began opening doors that were clearly meant to stay shut. Details started spilling out fast and uncontrollably. And just like that, the family found itself divided. Some stood firmly in support of Claressa, convinced something was deeply wrong. Others were shocked, unsure what to believe. And the quiet conversations that once stayed private quickly turned into loud, emotional arguments. Every word, every glance, every whisper began adding fuel to an already chaotic situation. What started as a disagreement about trust and betrayal had now evolved into something much bigger. Something explosive. Secrets were surfacing. Accusations were flying. Emotions were running high. It felt like everything could fall apart at any moment. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get messier, the cousin dropped even more shocking details. Ones that reportedly caught even Claressa off guard. This was no longer just drama. This was a full-blown storm. And the next chapter had the potential to flip everything upside down. The very next morning, instead of calming down, the situation intensified. Tension rose quickly. Reports suggest Claressa was pacing around her home, replaying every word she had heard, analyzing, questioning, trying to piece together a puzzle that didn't seem to have a clear solution. The claims hit her hard. Feelings of anger, betrayal, and disbelief came all at once. At one point, she was reportedly heard saying, "I trusted him with everything." That kind of statement doesn't come lightly. As she went through old messages and financial records, it became clear she was trying to connect dots. Dots that may have always been there but had gone unnoticed. Her inner circle encouraged her to stay calm, but that's easier said than done when everything around you feels like it's collapsing. On the other side, Papoose reportedly took a very different approach. Instead of reacting emotionally, he moved carefully, strategically. According to insiders, he began reaching out to family members and mutual connections. Not loudly, not aggressively, but with intention. Each conversation seemed designed to influence how people perceived the situation. It wasn't random. Every word, every response, every silence appeared calculated. The goal, some believe, was to shift the narrative, to make it seem like Claressa might be overreacting, while he maintained a calm, controlled image. And that contrast? It didn't go unnoticed. While Claressa's emotions were visible and intense, Papoose's composure made people question everything even more. The family dynamic began to fracture. Some relatives stood firmly with Claressa, insisting that no one should ever take advantage of her trust. Others hesitated, unsure what was true, and a few began leaning toward Papoose, influenced by his calm demeanor and measured responses. Meanwhile, group chats turned into battlegrounds. Messages flooded in non-stop. Accusations bounced back and forth. Every conversation seemed to escalate the tension further. Even people outside the family were pulled into the chaos. Rumors spread quickly. Opinions formed even faster. And then came a moment that pushed everything to the edge. A face-to-face confrontation. "You've been using me," Claressa reportedly said, her voice filled with emotion. But Papoose didn't match her energy. Instead, he remained calm. "I'm not using you," he allegedly replied. "I'm just making sure everyone sees the truth." That response only deepened the divide. Some saw it as confidence. Others saw it as manipulation. And before anyone could process that moment, the cousins stepped back in, adding even more layers to the story. They began sharing additional details, specific moments, financial decisions, personal situations, public appearances. According to these claims, many of those situations may have been influenced behind the scenes. That idea alone caused people to rethink everything. Moments that once seemed normal suddenly felt suspicious. Family members began revisiting the past, questioning things they had previously ignored. Outside the family, the pressure continued to grow. Friends and acquaintances found themselves forced to pick sides. Even silence started to mean something. As for Claressa, reports suggest she didn't back down. If anything, the pressure made her more determined. She began documenting everything, saving messages, tracking details, building a clear record of events. This wasn't just emotional anymore. It had become strategic. Meanwhile, Papoose continued to move carefully, maintaining his calm presence while quietly influencing conversations. And the tension? Still rising. Trust had been shaken. Alliances kept shifting. And every new claim made the situation more unpredictable. At one point, another confrontation reportedly took place. "How could you manipulate me like this?" Claressa demanded. Again, Papoose remained composed. "You just weren't seeing the full picture," he replied. That exchange only intensified everything. Family members who were once undecided began taking clear positions. Some fully supported Claressa. Others questioned the accusations. And the cousin, still at the center of it all, continuing to share insights, continuing to shape the narrative. One statement reportedly stood out. "This isn't just about control or money. It's about protecting yourself from someone who's been quietly steering everything around you." That line alone changed how many people viewed the situation. By now, the drama had spread far beyond the family. Friends, colleagues, even distant acquaintances were discussing it, analyzing it, debating it. And as the story grew, so did the uncertainty. Because at the heart of it all was one question. What's actually true? Is this a case of betrayal and manipulation? Or is it a situation being shaped by emotion, perception, and timing? One thing is clear, the story isn't over. Not even close. There's a heavy sense of anticipation hanging in the air. Everyone is watching, waiting for the next move. Because one new revelation could change everything again. And if recent events are any indication, that possibility isn't far off. So now the question turns to you. What do you believe? Is this simply a family conflict that spiraled out of control? Or is there something deeper happening behind the scenes? Is the cousin exposing truth, or shaping a narrative? Is Papoose's calmness a sign of control, or strategy? And is Claressa finally stepping into control of her story, or being overwhelmed by it? Because in situations like this, truth isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's buried under layers of emotion, timing, and perspective. And sometimes the real story doesn't reveal itself until much later. One thing, though, is undeniable. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something even bigger.